Tell me, have you been following social media this week? If you have, then you will have surely spotted the myriad entries by local Christians from Palestine, the Holy Land, the occupied Palestinian territories, call it what you will, where they connected the Paschal celebrations, that is Easter for you and me, and the Christian beliefs about the crucifixion, death, and resurrection of Jesus with the war in Gaza and the ongoing occupation of Palestine. One entry I found quite poignant was posted by Reverend Mitri Rahib, a Lutheran pastor and president of Dar el Kalima Arts University in Bethlehem. He referred to the boulder that, according to the Gospels in the New Testament, had been rolled back from the cave where Jesus' body lay. This, of course, is the empty tomb of Easter that is a key fundament of the Christian faith. But Mitri Rahib connected it with the occupation of Palestine and spoke about this boulder of an occupation that had not been rolled back after 7 long decades. Indeed, the occupation continues, and the plausibly genocidal war in Gaza is only another chapter in the endless suffering of Palestinian men, women, and children. So, to continue this imagery, many Palestinians suggest that they are still crucified and that their resurrection has not come yet. A powerful image, don't you think? Here are Palestinian Christians saying that they are still in the crucifixion phase, whereas much of the world celebrates the resurrection. But it was not always thus. Some of you might know that I was born in Jordan and spent most of my pre-adolescent years in Jerusalem. We used to have fun at Easter, a combination of attending religious services, the washing of the feet, the Stations of the Cross, the vigil, and most importantly, the glorious feast of Easter. In Arabic, it is Eid al-Fush, and everyone went around saying Al-Masih Qam, and then the reply came, Haqqan Qam. And if you wanted to be more cosmopolitan or appear sophisticated, you reverted to the original Greek, and you'd say Christos Anesti, with the reply being Alitos Anesti. But there was more to Easter than churches. Chocolate bunnies, colored eggs, hide-and-seek games in the garden, and also visits to friends in Ramallah, Bethlehem, Nablus, Zababde, Taibe, and other towns and villages in the Palestinian West Bank. Some of our family friends even drove at the time to Gaza and celebrated Easter with Palestinian Christians there and ate fresh fish. Pretty normal, don't you think? We would find it normal. But then the 1967 Six-Day War changed all of this. The normal became abnormal and has persisted since then. 1967 is when Israel occupied East Jerusalem, the West Bank, and Gaza, and slowly but surely, over a space of a few decades, surrounded the whole of Palestine with an Israeli separation wall. Towns and villages within the West Bank itself were disconnected from each other with roadblocks and, yes, you guessed it, boulders. Something as simple as traveling from Ramallah to Birzeit, a mere 10-15 minutes away, became a big problem. Talk about open cages. Besides, Israelis began stealing Palestinian lands and creating settlements and outposts. All this was contrary to international law, of course. But did anybody care? Israel behaved, and still does, alas, with impunity, and the USA plus some European countries shield it from criticism or sanctions. And gradually, the situation went from bad to worse, until such times as B'Tselem alongside Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, finally called a spade and labeled Israel an apartheid state. But it got worse as Israel turned more right-wing, more settlements, more administrative detentions, more uprooting of olive trees, more curfews and prohibitive measures, as well as frequent incursions into the West Bank by the Israeli army. Those measures, too, ranged from house demolitions to the murder of journalists like Shireen Abu Akleh in Jenin. And this political head of steam culminated in the horrid terror attack of 7th October last year on the Gaza envelope that ensued with a war on Gaza over the past 170 days. Lex talionis, Hammurabi's roar, might is right, tit for tat, call it whatever, it's still awful, as war crimes by any other name are still war crimes. This is a vengeful and harrowing war, but it proves at least 4 points, and I know you can add many more too. 1. Israel is intent on the ethnic cleansing and forcible transfer of Palestinians, so they could take over the whole land minus its original Palestinian inhabitants. 2. The Palestinian Authority was impotent and uninvolved in the war. 3. Most Arab leaders didn't give a fig about the suffering of Palestinians, except with bombastic words and some aid dropped from the skies. And 4, the Western emperors lost their clothes, as many Western countries who had advocated the merits of human rights and democratic values in the Russian war against Ukraine forsook all these values when it came to Palestine. Take President Biden as an example. He is now showing concern for civilian casualties, whilst at the same time he undercuts any pressure on Israel to stop the war. Imagine that one of his spokespersons, Matthew Miller, suggested recently that Francesca Albanese, the UN Special Rapporteur, who says it as she sees it, was being anti-Semitic. Please. So today, as the war continues, the two-state solution is being refloated by some countries again. Really? Don't make me laugh, as this is an opium that is meant to keep Palestinians prostrate and a pretense not to give them their rights, their freedoms, or their voice. No wonder Mitri Rahib bemoans the boulders that don't roll back. How long will Palestinians have to suffer? How long can they suffer? Meanwhile, the tomb where Jesus lay after his crucifixion remains hauntingly occupied in Palestine. So when you say Happy Easter, Joyeuse Pâques, or Frohe Ostern, remember that the empty tomb we talk about during this season still has a boulder firmly at its entrance when it comes to Palestinians.